Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Half History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and as you see in this next biography series, I will be covering one of the Confederacy's most controversial generals, James Longstreet. He was known as Lee's old warhorse and Lee's bulldog, but now, and in his own time, he was criticized for his choices on and off the battlefield. It was May 1890 when an old general stepped out of a carriage in front of a gathered crowd in the old capital of the Confederacy, Richmond, Virginia. Initially, he had not been invited. The organizers of the unveiling of Robert E. Lee's equestrian statue did not want this general in attendance, but when some of the general's former artillerymen insisted that he join the group of veterans of America's bloodiest war, the organizers relented. The general climbed the stairs and sat on the stage with other veterans of the Civil War, knowing that through his decisions, especially in the last few decades of his life, he was seen by some as a traitor to the Confederacy. The general was James Longstreet. He was known as Lee's old warhorse and Lee's bulldog during the war, and being commander of the 1st Corps of the Army of Northern Virginia, he should have been a natural choice to join other veterans on the day of the unveiling of Lee's statue, but his story is much more complicated. James Longstreet was born in South Carolina on January 8, 1821 to James and Mary Ann Dent Longstreet. Neither his father nor his mother were from the South Carolina-Georgia border region, where they owned a cotton plantation near the modern-day town of Gainesville. His father James was born in New Jersey. His mother was born in Maryland. His first Longstreet ancestor stepped foot on the North American continent in the Dutch colony of New Netherlands in 1657. His name was Dirk Stoffels Longstreet. The family stayed in that area until William, with the new anglicized last name of Longstreet, moved from their family home in New Jersey to Augusta, Georgia, bringing along the father of the Confederate general. William and his wife Hannah settled into life in the South, with William building a steamboat propelled not by a paddle wheel, but by a series of long poles driven by the engine against the river bottom. Because of its complexity, he couldn't get financial backers, but he remained in the South, eventually purchasing a cotton plantation in South Carolina, north of Augusta, Georgia. William would pass away in 1814, but his son James would continue the Longstreet tradition of roaming. James would move closer to the Appalachian Mountains and purchase land on which to grow cotton worked by slave labor. He would meet Mary Ann Dent on one of his trips to Augusta. She was a distant cousin to Supreme Court Justice John Marshall. Her parents moved from Maryland to Georgia in 1812. The two married in 1814. From that year until 1820, Mary had given birth to 4 children, 2 of them dying in infancy. After Christmas in 1820, Mary traveled to her mother-in-law's home in South Carolina, where she would give birth to their 5th child, James. Although he was born in South Carolina, James would always consider Georgia his home state. The young man would be nicknamed Pete or Peter by his family, and the name stuck, being used by family throughout his life. By the age of 9, his father wanted James to get an education so that he could get into West Point Military Academy. The young James read books about Alexander the Great, Caesar, and Napoleon, filling his head with military glory. To indulge his son's longing for a military career, the elder James sent his son to live with his aunt, uncle, and cousins in Augusta, Georgia, so he could attend the Richmond County Academy. His uncle, Augustus B. Longstreet, also attended the academy, but had been expelled. His uncle was an impressive figure, though. Having been reportedly 17 pounds at birth, he would attend Yale and graduate before attending Judge Tapping Reeves Law School in Litchfield, Connecticut. In 1815, Augustus would return to Augusta and be admitted to the bar. Later, he became a state legislator and a judge on the Superior Court. Living in a house with such a prolific individual must have been, at least at first, daunting to a 9-year-old. However, the family embraced James and treated him as one of the family. The son of Augustus and Frances Longstreet passed away from illness shortly before James arrived, and it can be assumed that James acted as a sort of replacement for the grieving father. The academy was a strict institution. The students remained in class from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. In the warmth of the spring and summer, they would report an hour earlier and stay an hour later. The only vacation would be 7 weeks between mid-August and early October. James and his roughly 300 classmates would learn mathematics, grammar, composition, Latin, Greek, and oratory skills. James did not like the discipline implemented by the academy. He had come from the freedom of open fields and exciting forests, where his muscles meant more than his intellect. He never seemed to adapt to his new lifestyle, and his grades reflected that. James longed each day to get back to his uncle's plantation called Westover. In the late 1820s and 1830s, debate over tariffs and the tariff of abominations termed by South Carolina brought with it ideas of nullification. One of the leaders of the nullification movement was John C. Calhoun, a friend of Augustus Longstreet. Both men attended Yale and Judge Reeves' school, and both men supported states' rights. Augustus's home became a meeting place for Georgia's states' rights activists, and undoubtedly young James heard the arguments and saw his uncle's passion. Eventually, the nullification fervor dissipated, but never completely went away. In 1833, James was hit with a tragedy. His father died during a cholera outbreak, and his mother wouldn't remain at the home in northeast Georgia. She decided to move to northern Alabama. The long distance discouraged James from visiting his mother during his 7 weeks vacation each year, so his Uncle Augustus and Aunt Frances became like parents to him. He would remain with them until 1838, when Augustus attempted to get James an appointment to the West Point Military Academy. Unfortunately, the position from Augustus' district had been filled already, but Augustus used some of his political connections, and along with help from John C. Calhoun, they got Representative Reuben Chapman from Alabama, who represented the district in which Mary Longstreet lived, to nominate James for the military academy. He entered West Point in July 1838, nearly standing his adult height of 6 feet 2 inches. He was an impressive figure. Over 80 cadets would join him, but over the next 4 years, those numbers would be whittled away through academic rigors of the academy. 17 of those cadets would go on to become Civil War generals, including William S. Rosecrans, Earl Van Dorn, Daniel Harvey Hill, Abner Doubleday, George Sykes, Lafayette McLaws, and Alexander P. Stewart, to name a few. From July to September, Longstreet endured the summer encampment and the exams that followed, so that he officially started the academic year in September. The cadets during the encampment would sleep in wall tents, drill, and in general, get a feel for what awaited them in the following months. The new round of cadets brought civilians from the region, and young ladies would attend the ball that concluded each week. When the academic year began in 1838, it brought with it a new superintendent, Major Richard Delafield. Because of his strictness and his sarcasm, James and the other cadets nicknamed him Dickie the Punster. However, Delafield did a good job of improving the curriculum for the cadets by introducing improved cavalry instructions and would secure a battery of light artillery on which the cadets could train. The next 4 years would be some of the most difficult to date for the young Georgian, who already despised the schooling he had endured in Augusta. Despite his longing to enter the military, James Longstreet did not excel at the assignments. It was similar to his time at the Richmond County Academy, where while he was in class he longed to be outside and away from the strictness and the academics.